sharing another quick stream of consciousness thought, and it's on the subject of who is God. And I was thinking about what if I had a conversation with someone and that someone believes in the Trinity and I believe God is one. And someone might say, well, be careful, Mark. These are very, very deeply held beliefs. And for a long time, I've believed in that. And I still do on some things. It's just that every individual subject has its own ways of dealing with things. And every person in every situation does too. We're to be led by the Spirit. But in a general sense, on the subject of who our God is, I just haven't run into someone who is just so overjoyed to know that their God is three people. You can't say an individual is three people. There's three people, these three people. That's who they are. You can't say he. God is no longer a he. He is a they. He is them. And the notion to say that, well, you got to be careful because these are deeply held beliefs, very sensitive. You might offend someone. And I just don't know how that is. How am I going to offend someone? We're talking about an individual here. And if someone lied about you, and I told them, I told you who someone told me you were, and then someone told you, well, be careful, Mark thinks you're this. Don't offend Mark because he thinks you're someone else. In fact, he thinks you're three people. So be very careful. Don't threaten him. Then you might say, well, yeah, that's direct. We're talking about someone else here. We're talking about God. Let God inform them. And I get that point. I do get that point. But my point, though, is that we're assuming that they want to talk about it. I know most people don't when it comes to that subject. And it's still, I won't say it troubles me or disturbs me, but at least it's to the point of concerning me, bewildering me, that people in the so-called grace community will shut you down, block you out, ignore you, ostracize you, and just pretend you don't exist on certain subjects. Take, for instance, the Trinity. They won't respond to you. They won't discuss it. I'm trying to reconcile that from the standpoint of, oh, you can't offend people. But if I had a wrong idea about who you are, and I know we are talking about the second party as God, it's just that God lives in me. So when you talk about God, just like that's why we left our particular building, because our God was being lied about constantly in that building. Horrible lies were being told about him. It was being suggested that a non-believer could be prayed for in such a way that he or she would suffer, that God would cause them to suffer just to prove to them that he exists. That's very offensive to me. And just as I think it would be okay for you to be offended in a sense, not that it would disturb your whole life, but it'd be like if you found out that I thought you were three people and I insisted that you were three people, and some third party said, well, be careful, don't offend Mark. He really believes this, really deep down in his core. Well, no, to heck with Mark. He's got a stupid idea. And if he wants to try to tell me that, I'm going to disabuse him of that. I'm not going to sit there idly by and let this crazy idea go by that I'm someone else just because it makes Mark feel good. And when it comes to God, I have a very personal attachment to the one who lives within me. I take that literally. I believe he lives within me literally. And now I might be tiptoeing across the line where you say, wow, Mark, you're getting religious. You sound just like them crazy Pentecostals or whatever. But I don't think so. I don't believe so. Because this is not a decision. We don't decide who God is. God is who God is. And if you take it from that standpoint, I have no doubt in my mind that you will soon see that God who he is. He is an individual. I wasn't emphasizing the gender. I'm saying the individuality of God. You are a human being made in the image and likeness of your God. There is no likeness between this illogical format of three people being somehow one person. Yes, I have different attributes to me. I am a son. I became a father. I have a spirit in me. Those are attributes of the person of who I am, characteristics. But I'm not three people. I am made in the likeness of my individual God. And if that's your priority, which is to know who he is, to really believe the truth about who he is, and disabuse yourself of any unreality, because that's how I came to this. This is not something I hung on to because I was in a oneness Pentecostal church. No, I believed it more than they did. They just believed it because you're supposed to believe it or you're going to go to hell. That's not why I believe it. I believe it because I searched it, because I sought it, because I asked him, because I really wanted to know, God, are you three people? Because if you are, I want to address you properly. You're three people. You're not an individual. God is not an individual if he's three people. And I need to know who I'm talking to when I'm talking to him. You can't just willy-nilly throw out a prayer to this person or that person of the three people in this Trinity. I say that just so you know where I'm coming from. This is a deeply held knowledge of knowing. I saw somewhere one of these little bumper sticker type things that says, belief is the enemy of knowing. And I thought about that. Yeah, I could see that. I could really see that. Belief is the enemy of knowing. Because if you know something, it's not a matter of believing it. And the Pharisees, they knew a lot of things. They just chose not to believe it. God was standing right in front of them. They said, hey, let's get some rocks and kill him. They knew it, but they didn't believe it. And that might sound ludicrous, but it's true. And when it comes to the person of God, I'm not saying I understand the depths of who he is as an individual, because you never stop learning about the characteristics of God, his great love for you. He's an infinite God. So you're going to keep learning for the rest of your life of what his great love for you is, what that means, what his great acceptance is for you, because it goes on forever. So I believe that man wanting to quantify the wholeness of God simply split him up into three people and said, there's your God. Instead of saying, no, here's your one God. Live with him, learn of him forever, forever. It doesn't begin when you leave this life and enter into heaven. I'm sure it really gets more pure at that point, but you can enter into it now as far as learning about him. He is an individual, and he has thoughts, he has desires, he has cares, he has concerns, he has passions. He has a life that he is living. He, the individual who is your God. He is an individual, and he made you in his likeness. That's a lie if he's three people and you're one person. That's a total and complete lie. So I would ask you to seek that, because you're never going to know him as deep as you can. It's going to stop. There's going to be a block. I'm not saying he's going to stop loving you. Of course he's not going to stop loving you. He loves you and accepts you. But if you don't even ask him who he is, he's not going to ram it down your throat. He didn't ram grace down my throat. Is when I sought it. That's when I found out. That's when I became free from religion. But I've always known that he's an individual. That has just been plainly held to me because I have an atheistic background. I was never consumed with all this dogmatic stuff that the church crams down your throat. And for some reason, people can get free from all the dogma regarding grace plus law and all that nonsense. But for some reason, 99% can't get free from the dogma of God as three people. And no one seems to even seek it. They seek to confirm the Trinity. That's what people do. So they'll read Augustine or Clemenstein, or I don't know who all these guys are. A bunch of pagan yo-yos as far as I'm concerned. My God is the only one I learn things from. Of course I read the Bible, but it's my God who speaks to me through the scriptures. It's your God who speaks to you. Don't trust me. Don't trust the denomination. Don't trust those wise guys in those buildings who are really smart that you're impressed with because they teach about this or that you like, even though they may be right in a lot of things they teach. they're empty when it comes to the person of God if they're telling you he's three people. So it's not a matter, I'm not concerned of whether or not I offend someone, but that's not even the point. If you believe that 747s laid eggs and hatched dinosaurs, would I be mean if I said, well, hey, you probably shouldn't believe that. That's kind of silly, and you might be embarrassed if you go around telling that. And not that being embarrassed is the main thing. I'm just giving that as an example because, a lot of people are embarrassed of me because I believe what I believe. And that's not a concern of mine. But my point is the truth. If you believe something that's ludicrous, and the Trinity is ludicrous, it's absolutely ludicrous unless you throw out the entire Old Testament and you call God a liar and you tell yourself that his people never knew the truth and he decided he would never tell them the truth. He waited 4,000 years from creation to finally say, hey, I'm three people. And he still didn't, because they didn't even decide that he was three people until 380 AD, somewhere like that. And one of these carnal councils made up of pagans trying to determine what to do to get the people under control and to get the most followers. That's where secular people are right about all that, is they did use religion to control the masses. So you could say that Marx was right. Religion is the opiate of the masses. Religion is not life with God. Paul said, I perceive that you are too religious. That word for religious is synonymous with superstitious. That's what he said to them at Mars Hill. They weren't God believers in Yahweh and Jesus. They were believers in all these other gods, and they were just as religious and had more in common with the Jews of that time and the Christians of this time, because they were religious. They were superstitious. It is a superstitious thing to turn your God into three people and say, ooh, it's a mystery we can never understand. No, there is a mystery, and it's been revealed to us, and we can know it if we ask. The depths of it are not something we are going to get to the bottom of in this life. That is to the extent that we cannot know it all. But your individual God wants you to know something, that he's an individual just like you. That's why you're special to him, because you're not three people. You're not one of these pagan gods that he used to teach his people for thousands of years. Don't go and serve other gods. He didn't just mean the collection of gods that was out there, because whenever they served another god, it was gods, and it was almost always a trinity. It was always a trinity. So you can see in that the satanic law of the Trinity. It is Satan has devised this to keep you from your God. God came here to personalize himself, not to twinitize or trinitize himself or divide himself up. He came here to personalize who he is in that man, Jesus Christ. That's what he came to do. He's an individual. Honor that. Seek that. If you don't believe it, you'll find out. If you really ask from your heart, I'm saying from your heart, I want to know who you are, God. Not, is the Trinity true? Is the Trinity true, God? Do 747s lay eggs that become dinosaurs? If you ask crazy questions, you're going to get crazy answers, because there's plenty of spirits in this world that will tell you what you want to hear. But if you simply want to know the truth, I want to know the truth. Show me the truth. The truth will be revealed to you. It will. It will. God's not a liar. But pride separates us from him. And it can be on an individual issue. You can receive grace and be totally prideful in this other one. And that's what I'm saying. That's the type of question that will separate you from him, and he won't get through that. God, prove to me that my religious, superstitious doctrine is true, or tell me if it's not. Anyway, it's true, isn't it? No, that's not seeking truth. Seeking truth is wanting to know your God. And that's why I know it, and that's why I'm secure in it. And it's not because I don't care about offending someone, but I want people to know that, because there's nothing like that. I love the fact that my God is an individual, and he walks with me just like he walked with Adam. That is amazing to me. That is absolutely amazing. I embrace and I love and I receive that. And I don't have to say this is some screwy Louie type of mystery that you'll never understand. You just got to believe it. Make sure you believe it. I know you can't understand it, but you got to believe it. That's ridiculous. God is not a God of confusion. He made that clear in 1 Corinthians. He is a God of peace. What is peace? Peace is resting in the love of the one who loves you. The one who loves you. Rest in that. Don't believe lies. Don't believe man-made traditions. That's why God had Paul explain that in Colossians 2:8 and 9. He said, beware lest any man spoil you with philosophy and vain deceit after the rudiments of the world, after the traditions of men, and not after Christ. For in him dwells all the fullness of God. In that one body of Jesus Christ dwells all of God. And he warned us, the traditions of men, the rudiments of the world, that science, so-called, as he said in Timothy, but the traditions of men is religion, and there's all kinds of them. And look at them. Look at all the traditions of men in Christianity. They're all Trinitarian. They're all works-based. They're all repent and confess and get right with God. And you ask people, I've asked people, what do you think of Jesus? Oh, I love him. Oh, I just want to hug him. What do you think of God? Oh, he's kind of scary. Think to yourself, how do you look at it? God, he's the Father. He's way this far off, and Jesus is between you and him, trying to get things straight, trying to protect you, protecting you from the devil and his lies and his accusations. No, your God alone is the one that protects you from those lies and defends you from the accuser of the brethren. That one and only God, the only one that came here, wonderful counselor, Prince of Peace, the mighty God, the everlasting Father. That's who the Son given is. That's who the child born that was for us. That was the everlasting Father who did that. Now that's a mystery as far as how can someone love you that much? But that's God. That's how he can love you so much. His perfection is embodied in that God could do that. The individual God would come here himself and do that. Anyway, I've talked enough for a short thought. God bless y'all in Jesus' name.